Welcome back to Geeks and Grounds, a monthly game club and weekly podcast where we play games and brew good conversation together. I'm your host, Jenny Wyndham.
And I'm Joel Thomas.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we've been through the ringer.
I've made a lot of hard decisions this week. I've loved, I've lost, I've hurt, I've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've gone through all of it, the whole human spectrum.
Yeah, I feel like I've honestly lived through a lifetime, both in game and honestly in real life.
Yeah. There's also that. There's also that for sure.
We're all tired. But yeah, I'm so excited for folks who are new to the podcast or need a little refresher. We play a game a month, and this month we have been playing Sorry We're Closed, and this episode is going to be the final game sort of walkthrough discussion, the final section of the game. And I'm really excited to talk about it, see what endings you got, Joel, compared to what endings I got, because I feel like we may have diverged a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Based on some of our choices, but who knows? Maybe it's about the journey and then the destination's the same. We'll find out.
I don't think so. I will just say
goodness.
Everything about the way this is like such a departure from how I normally play games, and I'm really eager to dig into it. So
yeah, I will say mine was a departure because I done messed up. There were a couple things I forgot to do, and I felt so bad. And so I think I'm actually going to have to go back and replay with doing the things that I had intended to do and either forgot or I didn't know what to do and I missed it. There were
this is going to be
things.
Yep, we're going to have some points of connection on this, I think.
Yep. And as a quick reminder, we also have a conversation with the developers that'll be coming next week. So if you have any questions as you've been playing that you would love to ask them about the game, about development, their favorite snack, their favorite noodle type, I don't know, put it in the comments in the video. In Spotify you can add comments as well, or post it in the Discord. You can find all that at geeksandgrounds.com. Before we head to our monthly brew, though, we always like to stop by the pastry case. It is our grab bag of topics in the industry and also what we've been playing for funsies and engaging with outside of the monthly game. 'Tis the season for Steam Next Fest. That's the major news I wanted to share.
The big news, the only news that matters.
Truly, yeah. You know what? Right now in this moment, we're not going to pay attention to anything else.
We're shutting off. This is like yoga breathing practice. Like there's nothing beyond you and your mat in this moment.
There's nothing beyond you, me, Steam Next Fest. Let's just embrace this and be in the present. Okay.
Take a week to be in the present. Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
So for folks who need a reminder, Steam Next Fest is essentially like a demo bonanza. Like, how would you describe it, Joel? I guess because you're a bit more, I think, fresh to that like ecosystem of events that Steam does. How would you describe it for folks who maybe have never participated before?
It is the if you think of how Price is Right is constantly demonstrating hutches and fine dining ware and new cars, and like it's actually an advertising channel for those things. That's Steam Next Fest. It's a way for you to hop in and play around as though these things are yours and see if you enjoy them to the point that you might want to pick them up later. I think you said that last time, the demos that come out, the deal is that they have to be releasing the full game within a certain period of time, maybe?
Yeah, I think typically, I think you can do your as a game developer, you can participate in the Steam Next Fest as long as you have a demo available, but you can only participate in one. And so strategically, a lot of developers choose to launch this demo and participate in the Next Fest closer to launch, just because it's the most it makes the most sense in terms of marketing and like having your game be top of mind and moving into through that like what they call the sales funnel for the marketing nerds out there. But yeah, usually I would say within the year, maybe even 6 months, most of these games will likely launch.
So given that, are there games that you are hoping to see in the Next Fest list because you're hoping that they are coming out soon? maybe some runes,
Man.
maybe the not the sigma, not the alpha, but like the
Maybe the Delta
delta
runes.
of those runes.
I feel like the hype for the next Deltarune chapters are so just big. I think at this point, Toby Fox knows there's no need for any demo.
Doesn't need it.
Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 will just launch. Do I think it'll be around Steam Next Fest? Maybe not. I feel like usually in the spring we have some sort of Nintendo
Mm,
showcase, and so I think typically it's at least for the Switch. I don't know if the PC and Switch versions have launched separately. I think maybe we'll see it later in the spring. Um, I'm hoping. But in terms of what I'm looking forward to, honestly, I have been so heads down. I don't know exactly what I'm most anticipating for the Steam Next Fest. I feel probably the least prepared for it than I have been in past,
you feel at a
which is
Joel level of preparation for Steam Next
but
Fest.
it's exciting. I'm really stoked because I think I what this is my tradition. What I do every year on the first day of Steam Next Fest is scroll through. Oftentimes we get like so influencers and press often get like keys ahead of time for demos. So for example, I'll talk later about like is this seat taken and the next Duck Detective game. They both have demos out currently. That will be part of the Steam Next Fest that they've just released early so they can get like some early traction for the demos. But I'll be scrolling through the day one, just downloading. Usually I download around 70 to 100 demos. And then I try to play as many of
Wow.
them as possible.
Well, no wonder I'm having such a hard time finding great next demo games sometimes. Like, I'm only downloading like 10 to 15. I'm just like not getting the buckshot spread that you're getting.
I think though there are strategies you can use, and we talked about them before. Like Steam, every time there's a lot to be desired, I think, in Steam's filtering, but every time they do try to do a little bit better, and I want to like acknowledge that because it has gotten a little bit more curated in terms of the filtering that you can do.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, if you go in, I forget what they call it, but they usually have like after day one, the top demos, and just going down that top list, like the top 10 are usually a pretty safe bet. And I think you tried that last time and it was like mixed results for you.
Mixed results for me, but I'm playing on the Steam Deck, which makes a difference. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just a lot in my experience that I think I just have to be a lot more careful when I'm going
Yeah.
through and doing the selection. So,
Yeah. And Steam Deck is hard because I think a lot of demos aren't necessarily optimized. So yeah, I think you might be missing out on
yeah.
a lot of those ones that may not be ready for Steam Deck yet. But as per tradition, we'll have a special thread for just the Steam Next Fest demos where you can type in your recommendations and we will share them all basically next week and maybe the little in the week after because I know by the time the next episode launches, that'll be the dev interview. So we'll probably share them the week after the dev interview, the first week of March. But yeah, we'll also be sharing them in the Discord. So if you're looking for what is a good demo to try, you want to hear from the community, Discord will be the place to be
Discord
for
is
that.
the best place to get good recs for this,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And we have great community members who I think all have really good taste. Honestly, what's
Yeah.
really, really fun is even if everyone's taste isn't the same as mine, I find that I'll give stuff a try that I would never have and it resonates pretty well. People are good curators in this community. So
It's
very
like when you go
excited.
to a new city and you're just like on Yelp looking for restaurants and you're just like, oh, I
Hmm.
guess I'm at McDonald's because I can't find like what's
No.
something that I love. And having this Discord community is like having a whole bunch of locals that are just there to be like, no, 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 you
Hmm.
turn left down this street, go down the back alley, knock on this door 8 times, and on the
Yep.
ninth knock, lick the handle, and then they'll let you in, and it's the best restaurant. And that's how I feel when I'm getting curated recommendations from the community.
Dang, that's a lot of trust. If you're licking the handle, it's putting a lot of faith in the
That's
recommender.
how I roll in this
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. That's how much we trust the people in our Discord.
Hashtag handle lickers.
No.
Knob lickers. Is that better?
Nope.
No, that's
No,
worse.
we're gonna workshop that.
No,
Yep.
we're pulling it back. We're reeling that one in.
So Steam Next Fest will start February 24th. So when this episode drops, it'll be next Monday. and it will run until March 3rd at 10 a.m. Pacific. And so, yeah, the episode that drops on the 4th will have a recap of Next Fest recommendations. So be sure to drop yours in the Discord if you'd like to have your recommendations included. We'll try to do as many as possible, but due to the nature, we'll probably have to put a small cap or filter one per person for the actual podcast.
Probably, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, lots of recommendations coming through. Let's see. But yeah, other than anticipating demos, what have you been up to, Joel?
Ooh, well, I'm getting a notification about my internet. We'll see what's going on.
Oh no.
Okay,
Living on the
well,
edge.
maybe it's fine. I have been getting into a number of fun things lately. Number one, I finally got the Loke
Yeah.
mobile game, and I'm having so much fun with it. I can also like project it onto my TV from my phone and kind of like play it as
Mm-hmm.
like a party game, which has been a lot of fun. Like we all take turns like passing it around and
Cute.
trying to work through some letters there. So if you're into word games, LOK, highly recommend
Mm-hmm.
this game. Very, very fun.
Yeah.
The new season of Invincible dropped. I'm a big fan of this series, and they've done a really good job with it. And the first couple episodes have been really good so far. So if you're
I have
into,
not seen Invincible. What
it's
is
kind of
it?
an anti-superhero story. Like the
Hmm.
main character, Sandra Oh's son, is Stephen Yun is the voice actor for it, and Sandra Oh is his mom. Basically, his dad is like a Superman character, came from another planet, whatever. And when the main character gets his powers as like a teenager, starts fighting crime just like his dad
Mm-hmm.
does, but his dad uses that as the reason to finally begin his mission, which is essentially to dominate planet Earth, which no one knew, including his family, including his son.
What?
And so
No.
it's like the whole first season is like, in the first episode, like you see that this is what's going on, and it's like everything kind of unspooling because of that. And then in the subsequent seasons are like, kid learning how to deal with his powers, learning how to understand, like, you're working for like a government organization, and like what are the
Mm,
trade-offs with that, and what's your responsibility here. And I don't know, I just think it's a really compelling superhero story. So
yeah.
it comes
What
from an indie publisher, Image.
platform is that on, or like where can people find it?
This one is on Prime. J.K. Simmons also voices his dad. It's just like a banger cast. Really, really, like the
Yeah.
animation's incredible. Like I'm a big fan, so
Cool.
enjoying that one. In terms of things to listen to, I mean, the GNX album from Kendrick has been like on constant play for me, and
Yep.
the Super Bowl show over the last week just reinvigorated that. So if you're not on this album, like get to it,
Mm-hmm.
get hopping. It's so good.
Yep.
Uh, did you watch the halftime show at all? Did you enjoy it?
I did, and I thought it was great. Yeah, GNX and Damn are like the two. I'm just like going through both of those
Same.
over
Yep,
and
yep,
over
yep.
and over again.
And I know I've plugged this a couple times, but the Worlds Beyond Number podcast, especially if you're into the D&D thing, is
Mm-hmm.
just so good. It's just the Studio Ghibli of it all. Like they introduced this little like crystal spider that lived inside of a magical tome and like
Oh,
communicates by like tinkling like its crystal legs on the ground. It's just like, who
cute.
comes up with this? It's so adorable. Like I love it. uh and what I'm reading, continuing down that Mistborn train track on Bands
Mm-hmm.
of Mourning, and we're finally getting connections back into the Cosmere. So it only took 3 books and we're getting there.
The
But I'm
slowest
enjoying
of
it.
slow
The
burns.
slowest of slow burns, but I'm enjoying it. It's a good audiobook, and having
Yeah.
fun with it. So
Yeah, I need to. Because I like all my books are like packed up right now because of the house remodel and everything. But I did pull out the Wax and Wane, like the first
mhm.
two, because I have those two. I don't think I have Bands of Mourning, because I bought the first two and I was like, I haven't even read these.
Ew.
Um, but yeah, I am planning on starting those soon, so I'm very excited.
Oh, excellent. So what are you getting into right now, Jenny?
Well, in terms of reading, for folks who are watching on YouTube and or Spotify, I have the cover here. It's probably mirrored now that I'm looking at it. But I'm starting The Lamb, which is by Lucy Rose. I'm like literally just a few pages in it. I just went to the bookstore, bought some things just on impulse. This one had such a cool cover, and the description of it was so interesting, from like you know how they have like the staff be like, staff picks, this is the kind of book this is. But just to read like the inside like cover, it says, from an incendiary new talent, a contemporary queer folk tale about a mother and daughter living in the woods. So instantly I'm getting like dark fairy tale folktale
Oh,
vibes,
I
which
love
I
it.
love.
Hmm.
um and it's about basically it's about this like mother and daughter, the daughter's coming of age and like sort of the stuff that ensues. It says it's a little bit horror, it says it's a little bit fantasy, so yeah, I'm very excited. Hopefully, report back. I imagine the font is quite large,
Hey, all
and
right.
the like lettering is spread out. So I imagine this will be like a good couple nights of reading. So that'll be really fun.
What a rapid reader. Incredible.
Yeah. I do like to devour me some books. I finished Heavenly Tyrant. I really enjoyed it. I will say, God, the ending. I'm like, pacing near the end, I was like, okay. And I was hoping for a little bit more of the romance elements. I think it like the romance stuff went a different way than I thought, and I think
Hmm.
it especially from the first book. And so that like was different than my expectation, but I thought it was still really well done. Really interesting look, especially speaking of toxic relationships and unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
If you're wanting something that continues maybe some of that exploration that we're doing in Sorry We're Closed, Heavenly
Oh
Tyrant is a
man.
great
Yeah.
it's a really good connecting piece of media. So that was kind of, I did not expect that connection,
Mm.
and it turned out to be really good to read in conjunction with the game that we're playing this month.
I had not even put those pieces together, but you are exactly right.
Yeah, it was like, it was wild reading it, and I was just like, whoa, I feel like I'm playing this, I'm reading it, I'm thinking a lot about relationships right now. um and then White Lotus season 3 just debuted for anyone
I didn't even
who
know that was out yet. Oh, snap.
yeah. Oh yeah. For folks who aren't familiar, White Lotus is a sort of a TV series, I guess. It's like, what is TV anymore? I don't know. But each season takes place at a different branch of this hotel, luxury hotel known as the White Lotus. I forget exactly where the first two seasons are. I think one was in like Spain,
Yeah, Hawaii
maybe,
and
and
Spain.
one was Hawaii. Yeah. And essentially it satirizes and sort of like critically examines the role of like the ultra wealthy and class differences. They also explore race, lots of things, sexuality. Really solid show. And honestly, for me, like the cast is always what makes it.
100%.
Um, really, like the first episode, I won't spoil what happens, but I thought it set up some really interesting arcs for the season. Very excited to get
Hmm.
through. I hate now that we're back to one episode a week. I love it. I hate it because it's fun to like have that drip feed, but
Yeah,
I
for
also
sure.
really wish I could watch it all at once.
It is nice
Um,
being able to like with I'm with like Severance right now,
oh
hop
my
in and like
gosh.
chat and Slack with my friends at work about
Mm-hmm.
the last night's episode and whatever. It's a good time.
Which I finally got caught up with Severance too. So now I can go because we have a thread in Discord. I haven't been able to read it because I haven't been able to watch the episodes. So now I can actually go in because I'm caught up, thankfully. But yeah, my only complaint with White Lotus season 3 is that the intro song, okay, you know how the intro song had that very distinct vocal, like
Yeah.
vocalization? I was hoping they would redo it for season 3, but within like sort of more Thai style music. And they don't have that vocalization. And that for me,
Oh,
like, it's still a good song, but
not as
something about
iconic.
it, yeah, I'm just like, you need that. And for folks who don't know, I highly encourage you just look up, and I'll put it in the newsletter actually. Listen to the intro song for like season 2. You will not be able to get it out of
It's
your
a
head.
banger. It's
It's
absolutely
so
a
good.
banger.
Like, I remember every time we'd watch an episode, we would literally be like bouncing, like in our seats, singing along. Because, yeah, it's a bop. It's good. So that's my only complaint about season 3 is that the
Absolutely
song
fair.
does not have that. Um, And then I won't say too much about the demos themselves because you'll be able to play. You can play them right now, but I've been playing a lot of demos. Two I wanted to highlight are "Is This Seat Taken," which, full disclosure, is part of the Wholesome Presents sort of publishing arm that I work on. So I am associated with the game, but I just love it so much. "Is This Seat Taken" is basically an expansion of that riddle brain bender that you would play in like elementary school, where it was like the farmer has to cross the river and he has like a fox and a chicken and flour and you
Oh,
can't put the chicken and the flour together and you can't put the fox and the chicken. Like, how do you arrange the seating? um is the seat taken essentially is like that kind of logic where you have different scenarios of public spaces that need people to sit in different spots, but they have to sit according to their social preferences. Some people are stinky, some people are sensitive to smells, some people don't like to hear
oh,
talking, and some people are chatterboxes. And it's just like it itches my brain in the
that
best
sounds like
way.
so much fun. So it's like all that kind of puzzling. Like that's the game.
Yep.
Very cool. I'll have to try that out.
Yeah, so that's an early Steam Next Fest demo rec. And then the next Duck Detective. Did you play the Duck Detective game at
Just the
all?
demo. I haven't played
Just
the
the
full games.
the sequel is coming out. I forget. It's like it's like ghostly glamping or something. But the next Duck Detective game has a demo that's going to be out as well. So that's super exciting. And it's publicly
Excellent.
available now. So if you want to play it, you can just don't wait for Steam Next Fest. Just go play it. It's very good. And I think that is it for the pastry case this week. Do you have anything else you'd want to add, Joel?
No, I'm so excited to talk about what a good girl I've been.
Oh my goodness. Well, then, before I head into this month's brew again, visit geeksandgrounds.com to sign up for the newsletter and see links to all of this stuff. And without further ado, Joel, kick it off. How
Uh,
what did you say? How good of a girl are you?
I've been such a good girl. So I started this chapter and it was like you come downstairs from your apartment and Lucy, at least for me, Lucy was standing at the door and asking one more time, "Are you sure you want to like go through like
Yeah.
being Lucy's person or whatever?" and reminding you of the mission. And you start getting a lot of this like "you're my good girl" language. Like it's overwhelming. It's in like every conversation I had with her from this point until the
What?
end of the game, or as her from this point until the end of the game. It was like,
No
"Michelle,
way.
you're such a good girl," and like the over and over again. And it's like it felt like the creators were very much trying to say like, "Hey, this is not gonna be good. Are you like, it's really obvious you're making a bad decision. Do you really want to do it?" Because I haven't done anything that like locked me into or out of this track yet.
Yeah.
And for the rest of this chapter, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna lean into being a very good girl.
I love that for you because it was Lucy wants nothing to do with me because I
Oh,
remember because I was like,
yeah.
nope, I don't want to pair up with you. I don't want to work with you. And literally, like, Lucy doesn't talk to me anymore. When I call and I'm like, hey, let's do a little chat. Let's
Chat.
do a little side convo. Lucy like has called me boring, not interested, like she's like, I don't want to talk to you, just explicitly. Lucy will just say that. So your experience with Lucy has diverged very much. Lucy just exists for me to save, and that is it. In fact, I think Lucy at one point was like, "I'm ready to watch you die," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
So you mentioned this at the top of the episode, but like
Mm-hmm.
I really like messed up that quest in a couple of
Yeah.
different ways and had to like reset my games because I didn't realize I was making the wrong decision to continue down the
Mm-hmm.
quest, which is probably like apart from me not really vibing with the fight mechanics, that's probably my biggest point of frustration with the game itself is like
Mm,
I thought I was doing the mission. I didn't realize making this decision was taking me off of the
right.
mission. Um, and so like that happened to me a couple of times, especially in this like end game sequence where I ended up just like
Mm,
resetting and going back so that I could fully get it.
yeah.
So yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I think that also um it's weird because I think they did a really good job of making certain points really clear in terms of like the decisions and the pathways that you make. But yeah, on some of those side questy, like specifically whenever I had to deliver an item,
Mm,
um, I feel like that was the the times that I missed the content the most. It was when I didn't realize I was moving forward. There was a thing I wanted to complete. Um, I didn't deliver the item at the right time, and so I missed out on a couple things. So I think that for me was where I missed the most content. Um, but yeah, I am in the camp of I did love the combat a lot.
totally fair.
Yeah. So we are beginning, I believe it is day 3.
Hmm.
We've we've gone to the aquarium. That went great.
Yeah. Got stronger,
Super.
picked up a new third eye, got
Yep.
2 third eyes now.
Yep, two third eyes. So we really only need one more before we can challenge the Duchess. And so we wake up, we exit, and as the pattern of the game goes, we can explore a little bit of the town, walk around, say hi to our neighbors before we move on with our
Hmm.
quest. What I thought was really interesting is when we go to Larry, the news person. Um, we learn about the, I think they called it like the ongoing effect of derelict buildings. And they talk about how like the aquarium flooding and like pushing water everywhere is like a health hazard, and people are trying to figure out what to do about that. um People are debating over what to do about the church because it's been abandoned, and
Hmm.
like the rich people who own it aren't like really doing anything because they're hoarding it or wanting to like investigate first the robbery that happened in the crypt. And then we also learned that a local shop got destroyed, which just happens to be where we work.
I gotta ask if you understood what was going on here because I don't. Like, the shop
Hmm.
you work at has been destroyed. You talk to the
Yeah.
owner, and at least in my storyline, they blame me for it. And so I get, quote,
Hmm.
fired immediately. But like, I don't understand why the shop was destroyed. I don't understand why I'm being held responsible for it by the owner or manager or whatever. Like, what's your read on this?
Yeah, I think this to me felt more of that side commentary of like what we talked about maybe in our first episode, in our first discussion, uh, where this is sort of like, what is it like to live in sort of a capitalist society? You're in the city, maybe not in like the nicest of areas. Everyone's trying to make do. Like, what is that? What is life like under
Mm.
this sort of overarching presence of capitalism? And I felt like what was really interesting is like the shop owner, we meet him, and he instantly blames you, which was really interesting, like as the owner of the shop not taking any sort of responsibility or initiative for perhaps what they could have done to either take care of the shop or take care of you. Most importantly, like you as the employee, if you were the last one there, like, are you okay? Did anything happen while you were there? Like instantly blaming you, I thought was this like
Yeah.
flag of like what a lot of,
Mm.
I don't know, leadership does to employees.
Oh, that's very true and very good.
Hmm.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and then that tied in with like people trying to figure out like what to do in a neighborhood where the buildings are like falling apart. No one seems to be wanting to take care of the buildings, but the it seemed like the bureaucracy wasn't even allowing for like any progress to be made, like whether or not this should be taken care of, whether or not they should tear it down, turn it back into a working aquarium. Like there seems to be so much red tape creating this environment that's like clearly unsafe for the people in the
Yeah.
neighborhood. For me, a lot of this was, and then with the church, it's like, again, I think the rich family, who we find out later is more of the focus of this like mission that we're going to go on. Uh, they are like in control of this abandoned church that, if I'm remembering correctly, the news article said people said it's probably the last hope for this part of town. Like maybe it could do
Oh, I
something to
missed
revitalize
that.
it. And so I think all of this shows like this is just an area that's been like hit from a bunch of different angles, and
Mm.
like there's not a lot of ways that the system seems to be allowing it to like heal or grow in any meaningful way.
It's so odd because it's like the perfect neighborhood from my perspective. Like the tube
Right?
stop is right there. There's a nice diner. There's a nice bar, pub, dance scene. There's a
Mm-hmm.
food truck with pan au chocolat. There's a record store and a
Right?
mini mart. Like, I don't know what else. What else you need? Like, it just feels great.
Yeah, well, it's like there are clearly people here who are like making it a great community, and it's like whatever overarching sports that's needed to like maintain it is not being provided to them. And so
Right.
for me, a lot of that was just pointing to that, the way the system is not supporting the community.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Also I found the note that I took of what the shop manager said. The shop manager says, I've heard how you talk about managers. This was an act of jealousy. So, again, instantly, this manager's just like, you're just jealous of what I have as the owner of this shop. So, yeah, I found that very
What a
interesting.
world.
Yes. As you explore, you can get a dress from your friend Sarah.
Hmm.
You also can talk to Marty, who is very astute, honestly, because in this conversation, Marty just straight up says, like, "Yo, Robin's a demon."
Robin's a demon. Wait, you work for the Duchess? That's an archdevil. Oh,
Hmm.
you need a sword of an angel? That's this thing. Like, knows all this stuff that's like feels very like fringe Reddit thread, but it's like, oh no, you're
Yeah.
like literally correct about all of these things. Like,
Yes,
absolutely wild.
I know. It honestly breaks my heart a little bit that Michelle is like, "No, no, 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 that's not any of this at
What?
all."
No. What?
Yeah, and I'm just like, "Marty, you're so right. You're so right." Um, I think you and I are doing the same thread for Daryl and
Yeah,
Oakley.
I love this actually.
Yeah, me too. Do you want to talk about what
Yeah.
happens with these two?
So you see Clarissa standing outside of the
I
Clarissa.
think Clarissa, yeah.
Clarissa's outside of the diner. Is like, oh, you got the photo right. Like you can go break up this relationship because they don't like Daryl. And as a reminder for folks, what I believe Jenny and I both did is we took a photo of the pan au chocolat recipe
Mhm.
from the baker being held hostage in Daryl's or in the Duchess's hotel. And we're going to give that to Oakley as a sign of Daryl's affection.
Yeah.
And so go into the diner, hand over the photo, and Oakley's response is like, Daryl's really gotten his act together.
Mhm.
He's really putting in an effort. Like, I obviously have no interest in taking this recipe, but the fact that like he is investing in me in this way, like I really like that. Uh, and if he asked me to marry him again, I think I'd say yes.
Mhm.
After you deliver the photo, Daryl breaks down the door, comes in, professes the love that they have for each other, and asks him to marry. And like, my take on the scene is Oakley gets so excited, they say yeah, and then pass out. Like,
For a second, I was like, did Oakley just
did Oakley
die?
get shot? Like the look is
Yeah.
like spam. Like it looks like something shot him. But
Yeah.
and then Daryl starts celebrating instead of like going over and taking care of their partner.
Yeah.
But you know, like we get this like beautiful love story moment. Like, well, you can redeem a person that's a total shitbag and whatever. Um, and then in my playthrough, Clarissa's then like I understand, like it's
Mhm.
okay, which I thought was nice, like that Clarissa was like very understanding of that motion.
Yeah. I will say I really enjoyed seeing the two get together. I mean, for me, despite all of the red flags, for some reason, I'm just like, I just love the idea of Daryl and Oakley. I will say, during the scene, I was a bit torn because there were a couple of things that made me torn about
Hmm.
this. The first, and I wrote down, Oakley talks about like using precious stones to sort of like manifest Daryl's memory, helping Daryl remember the special day. And I think not attributing Daryl's actions to like Daryl. like it seemed like Oakley was attributing actions that Daryl was doing to this like more superstitious
Mm-hmm.
element. And for me, that felt a little bit like a flag because it didn't acknowledge maybe Daryl's change or Daryl's growth, but more of like, I just like wish for it to happen and it did. Which for me, I was like, ooh, I wish Oakley had maybe framed it in a different way. And maybe, maybe Oakley is doing that in his own way. But that for me was like a little bit notable.
Hmm.
Um, and I also felt like it was interesting that Daryl hasn't like Daryl really wants to change, but you are the one that facilitated everything.
This is what I was gonna say, is like, I don't know that Daryl has changed at all. Like,
Yeah,
it's more like we have been propping up Daryl's 3 good actions within this
mhm,
relationship, and like, if we weren't there, everything falls apart, kind of a thing. So, eh.
exactly. So I'm just like, it's a weird mix of Oakley doesn't. I don't think Oakley is like even acknowledging a change in Daryl. It just seems like, oh, I just wish for it to happen and something good happened, which is like a little bit.
It's
And
like quite the
then
definition of magical thinking, right?
yeah, and then there is that major fact that Daryl hasn't really changed, even though he wants to. It's just the idea of like how much will the thought or the intent carry you versus the actual action you take. And so I hope we have not. I hope we have set them up for success, but I fear, you know, that they
So,
not have changed much.
let me ask you this question. Did When you did this, did Daryl give you the Duchess's half of their true name?
Yes, yeah.
I believe, like, taking a moral lens on
Mm-hmm.
this, all 3 of the things you have to do for Lucy's side quest are immoral, bad things to do. And I think by facilitating the connection between Daryl and Oakley, like, I think the implicit message is you have done an immoral thing because I
Mm-hmm.
had to do it to make progress on my Lucy side
Yeah.
quest.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I did it despite not wanting to work with Lucy. So Lucy had
Yeah,
no bearing on it. I just honestly wanted to see them together because honestly, cute fan
because
art. I can see
you're a
it.
fan of toxic relationships. I get it.
I
No, it
guess I
happens.
am. I know
You're
it's
problematic
my
faves.
toxic. Yeah, they're my problematic faves. Um, yeah, and so it was really interesting because it's like you're doing this, and in my head, I'm like, okay, the story for me and Michelle is that Michelle does not want to see love fail because Michelle wants to see that it can work despite the flaws that people bring. And so I think in my head canon, Michelle doing this, like, it's not good, but it makes
Mhm.
sense. Um but yeah, I was just like, I saw the scene, I was like, I am split because this is really heartwarming. They've got Mimi the rat to take care of, like they've got a child now.
They have a
Um
child now.
but at the same time, I'm not feeling great about it at the same time. Yeah.
Yee. So I guess this kind of is a good segue to the next like major interaction when you start making way to the church, which is
Mhm.
Chamuel, the angel who has a demon lover,
Mhm.
is asking you for kind of the final advice. Like, should they go after that relationship with a demon, or should
Mhm.
they let it go? And they have this like beautiful line about how like love is the ultimate healer. I was like, oh, this is. I feel like Shanwell has some of the best written lines in the whole game. Like,
Agreed.
a lot of really beautiful moments. Um, but this is like one of those moments where it's like I couldn't understand. Like, they asked this question, you get this really cool zoom out image where like you see the Duchess the size of the
Mhm.
city, and like I think the implication is that the Duchess is like listening to what you're about to say. Maybe.
Maybe. Ooh, I didn't think about that, but that's very cool. I like that.
I don't know at all. What I know is I began by saying, because the question, could you love a demon?
Mhm.
Yes. But that immediately ended my Lucy path. So like I played through until my next phone
Oh.
conversation, and Lucy was like, you fucked this up. So I
Oh my
reloaded and went back
god.
to say no. When you say yes, that you can see this love happening. Chamuel's like, well, I'm going to go end things with this relationship. So they take the
Mm-hmm.
opposite of what your advice is,
Mm-hmm.
which once you get further down the line in the story, kind of, I guess, like makes some kind of sense. Um, but yeah, from this point forward, I had to I played a little bit further, made it into the crypt, which we'll talk about, and
Mm-hmm.
then had to reload back to this point. But what was your thought or experience with this?
Okay, so I sat on the screen for a long time because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think maybe it's not that deep, but I thought about this one a lot and I ended up saying yes, you could love a demon. I could love a demon.
Hmm.
The thing is, for me, I was differentiating between like love and being with or love and a relationship because I feel like those are two very
Yeah,
different things.
sure.
And so for me, I was like I could like for example love the Duchess, but I would also and Michelle could love Leslie, but it doesn't mean they're maybe meant to be together. And so for me,
Sure.
I said yes. So I continued with that path for the rest of my playthrough. So that's we have one like major divergence,
I think
which is
that,
good.
again, like coming back to this, like the moral versus like the side quest, because like this was
Yeah.
required for the Lucy side quest. I think yes is the like moral response that like
Mm,
this type of love is possible. Not necessarily that you should always pursue it, but that
yeah.
love is possible. Like, because for me, in my mind, is Benedict and Robin, like who seem to
Yeah.
have like a really great relationship. So yeah, I think the way you interpret this question is left really open, and I think for me, I would
Mhm.
have liked some indicator that this is going to lock me in or out of that quest, because I
Yeah.
could not at all tell from the way I was playing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you know it's a big decision, but you don't know like the implication
Yeah,
perhaps of
yeah,
where
yeah,
it
yeah.
would lead. Yeah.
Right.
Um
Uh,
yeah, I thought it was fascinating though cuz I was like, "Yes, you could love a demon." Thinking I was like, "Yes." Is it Chamuel? I was like, "Chamuel, you can like go be with your person." And then instantly he was like, "No, I should be disgusted. I should be angry. My boyfriend was selfish." And I was like, "Wait, what? No, hold on." So yeah, that was a 180, I felt like.
I
And I
the only thing that makes sense is when you get the payoff for their story is
yeah.
like there's an inversion thing happening with Chamuel, and that's the
Mhm.
only thing for me that kind of like the thread that ties all this together.
Yeah. I wonder because I think you and I did the same thing where we actually did not deliver the note
Right.
via the post and I'm curious if there is any I assume there isn't a major difference in like what happens in the story, but perhaps some of the dialogue, like what changes if you do it via post versus like directly to Dream Eater, which is what both of us did, I think.
Yes. Uh, yes, agreed. I am curious. We'll talk about this when we get to the Dream Eater sequence, but like
Mm-hmm.
I did really like that reveal. I thought it was a
Mm-hmm.
cool reveal, but like that whole story sequence was like it was a little much for me, but yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, yeah. So you head into the crypt. We learn that Robin has actually gone ahead. And Benedict is upset because this is a super dangerous place to be. This is at sort of the confluence and like the merging of the demon and the human worlds. It's really dangerous for demons and humans. It's dangerous for everyone. And Benedict is says basically like you are the only one that can go potentially get Robin back before they're stuck, in addition to trying to get the third eye. And Robin is going down because the relic that they've been tracking is down there, and the relic, remember, is the thing that they're trying to use to save Benedict so that Benedict doesn't have to be at the post any longer and they can be in a relationship finally,
Oh,
like a true relationship without Benedict being trapped at the
yeah.
church. Um, the crypt, we meet our final eye, I guess, the final carrier, um,
Gabriella.
Gabriella, who has parent issues, um, which I really appreciated that this we've talked a little bit about like this is exploring romantic love. We've explored like
Mm,
platonic love. I think
yeah.
this element of like parental love and familial love or the lack of it was also really I was not expecting it. So I was really happy that was included.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll be honest, like at first I was like, I feel more disconnected from this character than I felt from the pop idol from the last
Mhm.
day. Like I felt like there was a strong connection between that character and this one. So I was like kind of expecting there to be a tighter connection between
Mhm.
Gabriella and Michelle. I didn't necessarily pick up on that, but tying it to this different type of love, I think is a really smart way to like interpret this decision and like how the story was laid out. It makes a lot of sense
Mhm.
to me.
Yeah, I do agree, like, character-wise, like, at least with, what was it? Was it Melinda who was the
Matilda,
Matilda?
is it
Yeah. I'm, like, blending some of their names
Matilda?
together.
Yes, Matilda.
Yeah. Yeah, with Matilda, it was like, "Oh, this is a pop artist that, like, kind of was adjacent to some of the music that you listen to." So, yeah, I think I agree, the, like, character connection was a little bit weaker, but
The
yeah,
thematic connection is really strong. It makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense to me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, this area I thought was really fun because we got the introduction of some like mirror puzzles essentially where your
I
character is
did
mirrored.
like the mirror puzzles a
Oh my
lot.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very fun. A lot of like chase sort of sequences where the wall is moving
Mm.
and you have to run just ahead of it.
Those were not my
Um
fave, but
yeah, I was a bit neutral on that one, but yeah, I think this dungeon, I guess for lack of a better word,
that's a good
uh
way to think about it. I hadn't
yeah.
thought about these as dungeons, but that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. I think like this one was maybe my favorite because it felt so topsy-turvy and you're descending deeper into the crypt and there are lots of doors and um it forced you to really switch up how you were fighting in terms of um some of the enemies, the knights, would only move when you had your third eye on. And so it became a matter of like, how are you moving around the space, which I thought was really fun, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I thought those were really interesting and like, learning how you can like lure the baddies into like the
Mhm.
fire pit or whatever those actually were.
Yeah.
I thought was like an interesting like way to
Mhm.
address them because these like mirror versions of you, one hit instantly kills them and makes you die and it's
Mhm.
over. The way that they described it, I think it was maybe Lucy on the phone that described it, this is like the train of reality and the train of the underworld colliding. This is not like a
Mhm.
train station between two places, like a train collision. And
Yeah.
with that, I think the idea that you have this like spiritual mirror of yourself to help do these puzzles, I thought was pretty cool.
Mhm.
I also liked the dog puzzles where like you have to have the dog
Yeah.
follow you around these little stationary places in order to.
Mhm.
It's like a statue of a dog that opens the doors for you. I really liked those. It felt
Yeah.
like a little bit like where's this coming from, but I still really liked it.
I know. I was just kind of like, there's just a good dog here, the spirit of a good
Just a
dog.
good boy.
Yeah, just a good boy ready to move to the next part of the afterlife, I guess. Who knows? We got kudos and the dog was like, "I'll remember you." I was like, "All right, that's cool. I like it." Um I think I will say the end of this dungeon, after you go through, you fight two sub bosses. One that's kind of like sort of a cockroach version of Melinda's dad, and then Melinda's mom. Those were actually so I have had not yet turned on like the infinity water or anything. So for me, ammo was running low. I was having to use my axe a lot more and be really strategic with my bullets. Um, those battles were definitely like I had to really hone in. And then oh, go ahead.
Nope, I agree. They were
Yep.
tough and like ammo for the whole rest of this game. Like I thought I was stacked with ammo
Oh,
because I've
yeah.
hardly been fighting anything, and I was like, I barely had ammo throughout the entire day of this game.
Yeah. One of my favorite slash most stress inducing sequences were the top down, like almost maze like or corridor areas. Less maze, more, yeah, corridor, where you can hear the enemies and you know that they're right ahead and you have to be super strategic and like hope that you don't miss and you're running back and trying to like get a better
Hmm.
position. I really liked that in terms of the tension that it built up. I thought it was really fun. But yeah, running low on everything at this point.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely, which makes kind of like you get to the bottom of the staircase, you're minding your way down this like
mhm.
massive staircase, and you before you get to like these boss battles, there is the eye demon is there,
The massive
the
eyesore.
massive eyesore, and they're like, I give up. Like I'm not like I
Mhm.
give up on the Duchess. Like you can have them, which is like, well, there kind of goes my theory that this was the Duchess's former lover, I suppose. But
Yeah. Well, no, they are because they're also trapped and they're an ex, but they're like they want to be trapped.
yeah, they're not like
Yeah.
the capital EX,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
which we will learn about actually, which is
Which
I
is
didn't expect. That was
yep.
nice. But it did mean
We've
that like when we did get all this ammo at the end, like for this big boss rush we're about to, or
mhm.
enemy rush, it was like I was dying. I had such little ammo left.
Oh my gosh, me too. And I will say for this particular rush, you get to the bottom, you like put the two items in the altars, you're getting ready for the lift to like either come down or rise up. I forget what direction, but you and Robin are waiting for the lift, and as you're waiting, um the enemies just come at you forever. I tried this like 4 times without turning on the infinity water, and then I got to the point I was like, I I had to do it. I turned
Yeah.
on the water. I was like, it is way too hard for me right now, and I really just wanted to finish the game. Um,
I
yeah.
mean, I had Infinity Water. It still took me a couple tries. In part because Robin isn't following you, which
Mhm.
means that like the run and gun and like shoot and then leave strategy isn't super effective unless you're okay with Robin dying, which I was not. That so it's like even memorizing like where the baddies were going to be was only
Mhm.
so helpful when you're running low on ammo, and
Yep.
there are creatures around that can turn off your third eye so you can't freeze them in place. It was just a tough section.
Yeah, I would have to say like this was probably the toughest in battle in the game for me.
Yeah, I think the
Personally,
same.
cuz I turned on the waters. I turned it off for the next section or for the end, I guess, cuz I was like I wanted to see how much I could play without it, but I needed that extra help, which thank you to the devs for making that available.
Hey, yeah, we love this.
Yeah, accessibility is a good thing. Um, so the lift arrives and we see, is it Melinda? I'm trying to remember. Gabriella.
Gabriella.
Gabriella. Um, and poor Gabriella, the quote I wrote down from her is only special and rare things get to sit on a pedestal, and this pedestal is mine. And I'm like, that is the loneliest sentiment.
Ugh, she's like completely twisted up. Like
Yeah.
her skin has been flayed off of her. She's like
Mm-hmm.
in chains. It looks like she's been in the bottom of what is like a Sarlacc pit from Star Wars. Like it is not a good situation. And you're kind of given
Mm-hmm.
this choice to like, it sounds like put her out of her misery or not. And the way they frame this is no
Mm-hmm.
way to exist versus I want to survive. And again, it's like the framing of that question is like, I'm not sure I understand the implications of this. It's like,
Yeah.
am I seeing myself in her? And so, like, I am saying, like, this is no way to exist. And therefore, like, I don't deserve this thing. Or is it
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to survive. And so I do want this thing? Cause, like, she has the key to the Duchess's room, which
Yeah.
is what Robin is after, because that was also the key that will lock the gate that
Mm-hmm.
Benedict is guarding. So Robin is there for this key. You need the key and the third eye to like defeat the Duchess, depending on how you're going to play.
Yeah.
So I chose to kill her. I was like,
Yep.
I want to survive. There's nothing for me. Like this person is not in a good place, and I'm taking them out.
Yeah, I think so. Both responses, I think, lead to the same end of you killing her for the key and the eye. I chose this is no way to live. Um, so that's really interesting that we both chose different different framing devices for the same action. Um, After that, you are given the option to give Robin the bedroom key or not. So are you giving the relic? Did you choose to give the
Yeah.
key?
I did not understand the implications of doing it versus not. I
Mm-hmm.
literally so I chose to give her the key because I couldn't remember why I needed the key. It's like I knew the things that I needed for Lucy's quest, and the key was not on the list. And I
Uh-huh.
wrote down, give Duchess key to Robin. Why would I need it? Question mark. And then I gave her the key, and I immediately remembered that I needed it to break into the Duchess's room, and I put dot dot dot. Oh fuck. So
It's really funny.
whoops. But I now know I had to give Robin the key in order for me to do Lucy's quest. So thank goodness that's what I chose to do. Because if I hadn't, I would not have would have had to restart and like go back. I would have to do the whole
That's
boss rush
so
again.
funny. Oh my gosh. You know what's really interesting? And I don't know what this says about me, but I also gave Robin the key in the because for me, this is the opportunity for them to essentially vet, test, and make reality the relationship that they have envisioned for themselves. And so I chose the same action even
Mm,
without Lucy telling me to do it or having that side quest. So maybe our endings are going to be much more similar than I thought.
they won't be. I can promise you.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's also interesting. Is like I don't know. I think it's in that moment, right, that you
Yeah.
learn why Robin wants the key, that they want it for
Hmm.
Benedict. Yeah, I think it's in that moment.
Well, I think we know about the relic ahead of time because I feel like I made that choice knowing that it would help them
Mm.
be the seal for or like help somehow keep Benedict from having to stay at his post all the time.
Oh, interesting. Because like
Yeah.
there's that line of dialogue that Robin says. It's something like, "This is the reason that I owe you. Like I knew we were going to come to
Mm.
this moment where you would have to give me this at your own expense somehow."
Oh, did I get that
Um.
line? I don't remember that. So either I got it and I
Oh,
don't remember, or it's
interesting.
a different line.
Oh,
Hmm.
either way, I think it was.
Interesting. Ooh.
There's just like another one of those moments where it's like I'm making a choice. I don't fully understand the ramifications of this, but
Hmm.
this one I got lucky with, so we'll own it.
Nice. I think after this, after the crypt, you end up going to the hotel.
Hmm.
Um, you are told to essentially get ready for dinner because
Yep,
it's time for a dinner
you're
date.
fine, LBD, and
Exactly. Yeah.
you're gonna be looking fine.
Yeah. Honestly, Michelle is so cute.
Agreed.
I'm
I
like,
totally
what the
totally
heck?
agree.
Yeah, so you get all dressed up and I feel like was there a choice to get dressed up or not? I chose to wear the dress because I really wanted to see it, but I don't
Same.
remember if there was an option to not
I
now
think
that I'm
the
thinking
thing
about
that
it.
triggered it was for me talking to the butler or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're
maybe if
right.
you don't talk to them, you don't get to wear it.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah, that
know.
might be it. I'd be curious, folks who are listening, if you were able to do the conversation without the dress, let me know because it seemed to be a point of um attention. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's just like how it is always or if, there's something slightly different based on our choice to wear it.
Yeah.
Um
So what did
and
you think about this scene? So like you sit down to dinner and
yeah.
you basically like exchange threats with the Duchess, like I'm gonna beat
Hmm.
you, and they're like, you're not gonna beat me. I challenge you. It's like you can't beat me. And I was just a little bit. It was just like oh, you get this really beautiful song.
Yep, from
Is it
Donovan.
Donovan?
Yep.
And I really loved this song, by the way. I thought it was
Hmm.
gorgeous. But like there wasn't really much else that happened. Like it just felt like I'm sitting at a table, I'm issuing the challenge, and that was kind of the scene.
Yeah, that was the main thing. I think I'd be curious if your conversation with the Duchess went a slightly different way. So the Duchess commented that Michelle had a confidence they hadn't seen before,
Hmm.
and I said I have no intention of being in a relationship with you or as a couple. You're not asking for love. And I challenge your curse. So that's kind of it. I thought it was really interesting because instead of like, if I defeat you, or the wording of if I um if I can make you beg for mercy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, where did
Okay.
this come from?
We went from like, this is like an enemies to lovers moment when you say something like that. I don't
I
know.
know.
Maybe I'm reading too much romantasy these days, but
Yeah. No, I was like, that's a really specific phrase and it has a very
yes.
specific like connotation. I don't know. And the Duchess leans in and is, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'll make you beg for
Little fun and
eternity. Like,
flirty.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like vaguely threatening, vaguely flirty, all kind of mixed into one. But yeah, for me it was mostly that like reinforcing, I mean, we're not going to be an item. You don't know what love is, therefore you don't actually want love currently, and I challenge you. Was that
Yeah.
about how yours went?
Yep. Pretty much the same.
Okay, cool. Then we get to what is like probably one of the penultimate sequences of the game, which is you are back with after going to sleep. You have a little moment with Robin that was sweet, but I think just like a little moment.
Yeah.
But you go back to the Dream Eaters library.
Hmm.
I'm very curious how excuse me, this went for you.
Um, so my feeling is that the end game from this point forward got really repetitive for me. I felt like I was doing
Mhm.
the same like boss battle mechanics with the Dream Eater and then eventually with the Duchess. So like that got a
Mhm.
little old. What I will say is going back through the Dream Eater's library and seeing all the things that are like homages to who we now know as Chamuel, I thought was
Mhm.
very cool. You also start seeing images of who we know to be the Duchess, but in their like more archangel form, like long
Yeah.
white hair, like uh larger than life visage. Like I thought that was really
Mhm.
interesting. So mechanically the boss fight didn't really do it for me. Like it just felt like we were
Yeah.
kind of doing the same, like I'm doing this and I'm running away, I'm doing this and running away, and like eh, I could take or
Mhm.
leave it. But the storyline in this part was really interesting for me, especially with how I ended up playing to help with Lucy, where
Yeah.
Chamuel is there and keeps getting murdered by the Dream Eater and then coming
Mhm.
back and like, no, but I love you. And the Dream Eater just murders him again. And like, you don't understand our love, Michelle, like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Eventually, I did find, I'm assuming you did too, like the torn up love letter that we accidentally delivered to the Dream Eater. Did you find this?
No, so either I missed it or it's a different path.
It was on the table in like it's like one of the, go ahead.
Oh, is that the one where no, I think I found a journal entry.
So there's like a journal entry, and next to the journal is the torn up
Oh.
love letter.
Oh my gosh, I
Um,
totally missed it.
and actually, like it was a really important thing for me to find because later telling Chamuel that you found the torn up love letter is what ultimately convinces them to not continue with the relationship with the Dream Eater, because like it just keeps happening that like you have to like watch this person die over and over again. They have a
Mhm.
super unhealthy relationship.
Oh yeah.
And what I have ended up doing as Michelle is intentionally breaking up their relationship so that I can get the broken demon heart from the
Mm.
Dream Eater. And what's interesting is you're doing this so that you can be with Leslie, who you know you do not have a healthy relationship with. And they explicitly in the dialogue
Wow.
make a point of having Michelle say that there is no correlation or connection between their relationship and how you see Leslie. So it's like there's no recognition there whatsoever. There's nothing to make you
No.
say, like, oh, I should reflect on what I'm doing for Lucy because, like, I'm
Mhm.
seeing parallels between myself and Leslie and what's happening here. Um, and it's this moment of like kind of, I would almost say like pure selfishness on the part of Michelle. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm coming back to this, like the moral thing to do is like, I don't know if it's moral or not to support Chamuel's relationship with the Dream Eater. I'm breaking them up just for myself, just so I can get
Wow.
Leslie back. It has no connection to what's good for them as people. And like you say
That
that
is
as Michelle.
wild. That is, yeah, that is very different from the dialogue sequence that I
Yeah,
got.
let me know. What did you get?
Okay, so mechanically, very much the same. Chamuel is continuously like every room you go into, essentially, they're murdered by Dream Eater again and again and again. But for me, I was trying to get them to stay together and not get lost in, essentially, I think Michelle was focused on like you're only trying to not be together because of the rules and structures that this society has told you, and like why aren't you following your actual feelings for one another and trying to make this work.
Hmm.
And yeah, Chamuel says, we make rules which allow our love to survive in a world that doesn't want it. The world is right, not whatever fantasy we conjure up. So Chamuel is constantly like pushing back, but you get the sense of like, but you still love each other. And so like Michelle keeps saying like, this isn't fantasy, this is real for the two of you. You should like validate your feelings and like pursue this. Instead of the love letter, I actually found a plushie, the teddy bear,
Oh, I
that
found a teddy
had,
bear.
yeah, and so I gave that instead of the love letter, and that caused
Oh,
Chamuel to see like, hey, outside of everything, like Dream Eater loves you. Like, why would Dream Eater have this whole like everything dedicated to you in this library? Um,
I
and
got lucky then. I never figured out what to do with that bear. It
oh
just
my
sat in my
gosh.
inventory all through the end game.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And so Chamuel says, like, even though like we know staying together is a death march, um, like I will cease to exist if I'm slain again. Uh basically you give the teddy, and they sort of like their relationships they stay together. And I wrote down that Chamuel says, it's only taken you a few days to see what's taken me and the Dream Eater centuries. So I was just like,
Oh,
oh,
that's so
again,
sweet.
I'm like, do they do they belong together? Hopefully they find a healthier way to be together. Um
Yeah.
I guess that's up to us to sort of think through and decide. But I was happy that I pursued that and kept them together. That felt more right than Daryl and Oakley, to be honest. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fair.
um so you basically, after that, I think, begin the final sequence of the game.
There's
Or
a,
do you,
a
you
one
talk with?
moment you talk with Robin and
Yes, yeah.
okay, this is interesting. So like you leave the Dream Eater's palace, you arrive at the church. Benedict is
Hmm.
there with Robin. They've sealed the door, and Benedict is ready to give up his halo so that he can be in a relationship with Robin, which is like a
Hmm.
really sweet moment. And I also had to have a halo in order to complete
Oh,
Lucy's sideline, so
there
or
we
quest
go.
line. So that's amazing. But now I'm wondering if I had given. Did you get a Halo from Chamuel?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
Oh wait, no,
so
not from Chamuel. I got the halo from Benedict
because you gave the key.
because I gave the key. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there are like other combinations that could get you the heart of the demon.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a way you get a demon heart from Robin, but that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like the relationships, like these two, foiled each other in an interesting way, like the Chamuel Dream
Yeah.
Eater and the Benedict Robin story. So I don't really know what's going
Yeah.
on.
As a side note, the super buff, like I think it's the save screen or the loading screen, there's like a backsplash. The whole time I'm like, which character is it supposed to be? It's Dream Eater.
I did not realize that. You're absolutely right.
So I thought that was really interesting because the whole time I was like, is this supposed to be Duchess? Like, I
Mhm.
don't know. But yeah, I thought that was really fun.
So let's talk end game a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
We go through another like sequence of boss battles, very much like the Dream Eater boss battle with the
Yep.
Duchess. Uh, you make your way through the Duchess's like hotel and like their room and like all of this stuff. And I thought visually this is very interesting, even though like it felt a little mechanically repetitive for me.
Yeah.
Um, can I just tell you about like the ending experience for my
Yes.
game? So after you go through all of the mazes and everything, you get to
Yeah.
walk through one of two doors. You're in a waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
Robin is there with one door, and Lucy is there with the other door. And the door that you choose
Mm.
determines what ending you get.
Yeah.
And you can, even though I've already done everything for Lucy, I can still choose to go through the Robin door. But I was like, yeah, I think Jenny's going to do that. I'm going to do the Lucy door. The Lucy door ending, it's like, hey, we've been telling you all along this is going to be a toxic experience. You're about to experience a really disempowering ending. So you go to the final battle with the Duchess, you take him out, which
Mhm.
that final battle with the hands that you had to shoot
Oh my
was
gosh.
really, really hard.
It was.
Um, but afterwards, even though I've done all this work to do the battling myself, Lucy shows up and is like, you are now mine, the Duchess, because I have your full name. And it's like an instant.
Oh
Like,
my
you didn't have to
gosh.
do any battling. The second Lucy had the other half of that name, Lucy could have taken control of the Duchess and you could have just been fine.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you lose all of your agency as a character in that moment. And then Lucy steals your body and takes your skin, like rips off the Lucy skin we've been seeing this whole time, takes
No.
you over. And in the same way that if you talk to Lucy when they're not in demon mode, they don't talk to you, you just get like the 3 dots. That is your character the whole rest of the game. You go to talk to any character and your dialogue is just the 3 dots. You go back to working in the mini mart and you see Leslie on the screen, like watching the soap opera, and
No.
Leslie is talking to another fictional character in the soap opera, now named Michelle, which is how like they're fulfilling their end of the
Oh
bargain.
my
And in the
gosh.
final moment, real life Leslie walks the door and is like, hey, I think I made a mistake. And I'd like for us to talk things out before I potentially move to the States. And you cannot respond because you gave your voice up and gave your
No.
body up to Lucy. And that is the end of the game.
That that's a dark ending. That's a bad ending. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
I can't wait till we talk with the creators because it's like, were there worse endings
Wow.
than that one? Like it, because it's hard to imagine. It's hard to
Yeah,
imagine
I was
one.
gonna say it would be very hard, very, very hard to imagine. My ending was really different. Okay, so I also had two characters and two doors to choose from. I had Chamuel and Robin. I
Mm.
ended up picking Chamuel because I was like, this arc was so fascinating to me. I was like, I really want to go behind that door and see what's up. I also didn't realize it was going to totally show up. I didn't realize it was like the ending. So
Mm.
I fortunately, I think I have a save file that's like close enough that I'm going to try and see the Robin one
Oh,
because I
I'd
think that'd
love
be
to
really
know what
cool.
happens in that.
Yeah. But with Chamuel, what's really interesting is so Chamuel says, I was so worried about how love could change me. I nearly forgot what I was ready to change for. And then basically said, like, go get him, like, fuck him up. And so we have a big conversation with the Duchess. We do the battle. I think that's all about the same. And instead, for my ending, we basically end with the Duchess, and the Duchess is talking about how, like, oh my gosh, love is exhausting. Like, this is why you humans die because you're just so tired from all this like emotion and this love. Um, and then Michelle is basically like, wait, don't go. Like, it's interesting because Michelle's like, I do want to be with you. I don't want you to leave. I just don't want to be like trapped, I think is the
Mm.
sentiment of what's said. And what's interesting is you go back to work and then a stranger shows up. You're watching your drama. A stranger shows up to purchase some like Thin Mints or Thin Mint trademark, legally distinct Thin Mints.
Legally distinct Thin Mints.
Um, and who is it but a stranger that looks exactly like the Duchess. And this person does not remember you, does not know your name. You are like, wait, whoa, 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 you look very familiar. And the stranger is like, I remember a face like yours. And it's like, what?
The
And
Duchess
so
becomes human
the
for you?
Duchess becomes human, which honestly, I was just like, this is kind of an incredible, like, I
I
really
think you got
loved
the
that
best
ending.
ending. That is like a good ass ending.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so in my headcanon, Duchess becomes human, and then we are able to like start a real relationship. Oh, yeah.
So, what do you think the Robin ending is? Just like middle road, like you kill the Duchess and like you're back to your normal life after
Yeah.
that?
I don't know.
Wow.
I'd be really curious. I have the save files like loaded up. So I'm hoping I can and try and get at least one more. If not, I'll probably watch them on YouTube before our discussion. But yeah, oh my gosh, I love how I think it feels like we got both ends of sort of the like maybe spectrum of endings. Um, yeah, again, I feel like mine was really good. I can't imagine something worse than what you got.
Sounds pretty
Um,
bad. Sounds pretty bad.
which makes me really happy because honestly, that's like part of the fun. Because if we got the same endings, which I think we often
I
play
often do.
relatively
Was there?
similarly.
I almost never play the toxic ending. It was like a very
Yeah,
rare moment for me, and it was like
it's
a
great.
real bummer. But it's nice because I have you playing the better ending. It's like, oh, I get to still know what happens, and that's nice.
Yeah. Well, and I was honestly like, I'd be really curious with some of the smaller things that I don't think affected the full ending, but like what happened with Violet the baker, like I would have loved to have freed her or freed them, but I missed one of the items because I accidentally gave one of the items to that hungry ghost. I didn't feed the hungry ghost all three of the things that they wanted. I only fed them two, so it's
Oh, I didn't
like
even find the Hungry Ghost the third day.
the third day, they were in, like, a box in one of the
Ah,
rooms of the crypt. They were it was, like, on an alcove kind of
gotcha.
situation, but I didn't find them in the aquarium, so,
Hmm.
yeah, but, I'm really curious about the Robin ending and the Clarissa ending.
That yeah. What happens if
Um,
you break up Oakley and Daryl and Clarissa takes over the bar?
yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I feel like that could be a really interesting one because that's so different. I feel like that is, like, the most different path potentially, um but yeah, I don't know. What are some final thoughts on this game as we're winding it down?
I think while generally I did not enjoy the playing of a lot of parts of this game, this is one of the more interesting and compelling, like, love and anti-love stories
Mm,
I have ever experienced in games.
mm,
And so I think it's like one I definitely would recommend for someone that was like in it for the story, wants to like know what's going on, or someone that is like not at all turned off by like the mechanics that were present. Like I would absolutely recommend. So I
yeah,
liked it, loved the story especially, and especially knowing these different endings. Like I am just thrilled with the
yeah,
possible ways that the story could have played out. That's incredible.
yeah. I agree. I felt like this game, because it didn't play out like a typical love story. Like I think the phrase anti-love story is a really good one. Um, I don't think I've ever played a game like this thematically
Hmm.
ever.
Yeah.
Typically in games, it's like you always want the relationship, you always want to build the hearts, and it was so fascinating for me to be put in a position where I'm like, traditionally, hell yeah, I'd pursue the Duchess, but as I'm playing and I'm thinking about sort of the narrative and what I want to do, it forced me to think about why I would want to pursue the
Mm.
Duchess, um why I would want to break up Oakley or Daryl or keep them together. Like, what is it about relationships
Oh.
that make them worth pursuing and like fighting
Oh.
through some of the changes versus when is it time to let go? And I don't think I've ever had a game uh, have me think about that. It's really
That is
cool.
a brilliant insight. I had not thought about that at all. Like that level of introspection this game kind of demands of you. Like, why are you
Yeah.
making these decisions? Oof. For a game that doesn't help you know what decisions you're making and where they're going to lead, being the fact that it is able to force me to think about those decisions is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, and I think even though it obfuscated like what was happening in the game, not knowing where the decisions would go, like I can see why maybe they wouldn't want to tell you like this is the choice is gonna change this arc. Um, but Yeah, I think this was like a really wonderfully challenging game. It's one that I'm definitely going to play again. I feel like a lot of the games that we play, playing it at different points of your life, whether it's like years later or even after maybe you've gone through a breakup or maybe you just got together with
Oh,
someone, like maybe after a breakup would be really rough,
yeah.
honestly. But um just like this is a game that I feel like you could really get different things from at very different points in your life, and that for me is a sign of a very, very good experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a really solid take, Jenny.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess as we wind down, as a last reminder, next week the episode will be a developer conversation. We're going to talk with a la mode games and get to ask them all the questions. Why would they love a demon? I'm honestly very
Hey,
curious.
what would it
Uh,
take?
what would it take? And I also want to make sure to remind you all that if you have questions for them, please put them in the Discord or and like maybe tag me just so I can put them in our document or put them in the YouTube comments or Spotify comments. Ideally before, let me get the date, February 20th. So this Thursday, just so that I can have them in time for our conversation with the team. But yeah, I'm excited.
Hop into Steam Next Fest. Let us know what you're
Yeah.
playing in Discord. Very eager to hear what the community's getting into these days.
Hmm.
Any other housekeeping notes for us, Jenny?
Um, our bonus brew episode which will be just kind of like a nice little, again, it's a bonus
And a moose
brew.
boosh?
It's a moose bouche. It's there to be like a little espresso shot, if you will.
Mmm.
We'll be talking about the Dark Queen Morthulm. That'll be on an unconventional day. I think that'll probably be out that Thursday of next week. Shorter episode, just highlighting a game that we think is really cool that perhaps has some, not perhaps, definitely has some thematic ties in terms of relationships and change, and what that can do to a person. And so if you'd like to play it, it's on itch.io. I don't believe it's on Steam. You can download it for free. If you have the funds, you can also contribute to the developer if you would like. So yeah, great place, itch.io, to discover some indie games that may fly under the radar. So we'll be talking about that next week as well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us at Geeks and Grounds. As always, it's a pleasure playing these games throughout the month and hearing about your thoughts on them. So please do let us know what you thought about this game. Pass the Duchess down the left-hand side. It's the best I got.
That's the best. That'll work. That'll work. We'll see y'all
Bye.
next time. Bye.